I now give the floor to His Excellency Evangelist Venizelos, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs of Greece.
Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, this session of the GA is taking place in a global context full of challenges, testing the efficiency of the international system. Greece is fully engaged in favor of the UN objectives, whose universal ideals have never done anything but inspire us. I'd like to take this opportunity to emphasize my country's alignment with the positions of the EU presented by the President of the European Council in his statement. We reiterate our support for efforts seeking to reform the organization, including the Security Council, so that the organization will be better able to adapt to the ongoing changes of our age and to strengthen its operational nature and its effectiveness in discharging preventive diplomacy. Among our challenges globally are obviously challenges of climate change, which is a vital priority. A new universal and legally binding agreement is essential for us. Transition towards a new model of green economy with a low carbon footprint must be accelerated. Greece believes that the Summit on Climate, which was held this week, gave us an opportunity, unique opportunity, to intensify our efforts to achieve this type of universal agreement. The Greek presidency of the EU Council during the first quarter of 2014 supported the importance of sustainable development, with a significant joint statement being adopted as part of the ministerial meeting of the EU with African, Caribbean, Pacific countries that was held in Nairobi last June. The Ebola epidemic has become a genuine threat for global peace and security, with serious social repercussions, economic and humanitarian impacts. An international strategy is necessary in order to contain the virus and to avoid an unprecedented humanitarian crisis, which would bring about the collapse of the health system and definitely of the social fabric of the states affected. We welcome the decision of the Secretary General to establish this new mission, UNMIR, and we pledge that Greece will offer its full support to any initiative taken in order to combat this epidemic. The current complex challenges for security require that we pool our forces, both internationally and regionally. Greece supports the strengthening of cooperation between the EU and the UN in crisis management, particularly by implementing the action plan on UN peacekeeping operations. Mr. President, the world is facing a series of unprecedented crises in the Middle East and in North Africa, as well as the eastern neighborhood of the EU. Of course, with these conditions and multiple crises, a consistent and global comprehensive strategy is required. Of course, from this standpoint, the role of the United Nations, and especially of the Security Council, is vital. This is the only way that we will be able to deal with the critical dilemmas that we're seeing now, the dilemma between democracy and security. But to have democracy, we have to have a state that is functioning and does not dissolve, as well as minimal security conditions. The Ukrainian crisis seriously affects security and stability in Europe. We are concerned by the humanitarian situation, which is getting worse in eastern Ukraine, and we support the territorial integrity, independence, and the sovereignty of Ukraine.
We support the 3 September Minsk Agreement, the full implementation of which can contribute to the resolution of this crisis through diplomatic and political means. The key is the achievement of an inclusive solution. Regarding security concerns in our neighborhood, we welcome the adoption in Egypt of the 26 August Israeli-Palestinian ceasefire agreement, which we hope paves the way to relaunching the political process aimed at durable peace, which is obviously a prerequisite for a comprehensive solution allowing two states, Israel and Palestine, to coexist in security. The UN Secretary-General's newly appointed representative for Syria must continue efforts to ensure the effective relaunching of the Geneva II political process. This is all the more imperative given the barbaric actions of ISIS and other jihadist groups in Syria and the Iraqi-Syrian border region. Foreign fighters joining jihadist terrorist organizations is a serious threat to regional and global security. As a member of the International Alliance Against ISIS and the extremist jihadists, Greece fully supports the new Security Council resolution on how the international community must act against ISIS and potential foreign fighters. In this regard, I wish to make special reference to the grave humanitarian situation and decreasing refugee pressure on countries of the region, including Greece. Military means alone cannot eliminate the jihadist threat. We must also promote an inclusive process of national dialogue in Iraq and reconciliation to counter this threat to the country's national unity and territorial integrity. We remain seriously concerned at the displacement of civilians and we strongly condemn the systematic persecution of Christians and other religious communities. The region's stability is also under threat from the ongoing violence in Libya. We strongly support the UN's coordination of relevant international efforts. Thus, we welcome the appointment of the UN Secretary-General's new Special Representative. Mr. President, deeply concerned at the life-threatening conditions journalists are increasingly confronting and the censorship and the persecutions faced by the media, Greece co-sponsored last year's resolution on the safety of journalists and the issue of impunity, and we are now co-sponsoring this year's resolution on the protection of journalists. Mr. President, during its European presidency in the first half of 2014, Greece emphasized Western Balkan integration into the European Union. This objective requires implementation of internal reforms in accordance with EU standards and promotion of good neighbourly relations through regional cooperation, reconciliation and effective confrontation of the sources of nationalism. We welcome the significant progress so far in the EU-facilitated Belgrade-Pristina talks. We hope the two sides continue their constructive discussions in a spirit of compromise. Mr. President, on the name issue of the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, Greece fully respects the process directed by the UN Secretary-General through his personal envoy, Mr. Matthew Nimitz, and always participate constructively and with goodwill. Greece has already taken very considerable steps to date. We are awaiting corresponding steps from the other side. We propose a mutually acceptable compound name with a geographical qualifier before the word Macedonia for all uses and purposes, internally and internationally, erga omnes. Greece supports the European and Euro-Atlantic perspective of this neighboring country and has long been among the top foreign direct investors there. Its European and Euro-Atlantic perspective hinges not on the name or on Greece, but on respect for the general criteria in place for all accession candidate countries. It hinges on issues of democracy, rule of law, respect of human rights, harmonious interethnic relations, and freedom of the press. As the relevant European Council conclusions say, tangible steps need to be taken on these issues. Mr. President, the past summer marked the 40th anniversary of the Turkish invasion in Cyprus, with the international community still confronting the ongoing illegal military occupation of the territory of a UN and EU member state. Greece fully supports the dialogue between the leaders of the two communities within the framework of the February 2014 joint communiqué and President Anastasiadis' initiatives for confidence-building measures that can create new momentum on the island. A just and viable solution to the Cyprus problem must be in accordance with the relevant UN Security Council resolutions, the high-level agreements, the February 2014 joint communiqué, and the European acquis. The Cypriot people must express their agreement to such a solution through referendum. We also attach great importance to maintaining the UNFICYP's mandate, level and concept, and to the UN Secretary General's Good Office's mission, and to welcome Mr. Eida's appointment as his new special advisor for Cyprus. A just and viable solution to the Cyprus issue and respect for international law, especially the international law of the sea, are two critical factors on which the full development of Greek-Turkish relations depends. These relations have great potential and are critical to the stability of the wider region, as they are relations between two NATO member states, while Greece also supports Turkey's European perspective. Mr. President, challenging times require demanding choices. The UN is in position to tackle the new challenges as it has so often done in the past, provided we all share the same vision and, most importantly, the necessary political will. I thank you for your attention.
I thank the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs of Greece for his statement.